Hi everyone, my name is Mary Anderson. I'm the Director of Career Services at the College of St. Scholastica. This presentation today is focused on writing thank you notes, some tips and strategies to do that. On this slide, you'll see that I also include contact information for me and for the office. So if you'd like to contact me in the future about this or other topics, I'm at manders1@css.edu. If you ever want to submit other documents for review, resumes, cover letters, a thank you note, that would go to resumes@css.edu. If you'd like to schedule an appointment, you can email careers@css.edu. And of course, you have access to our website, which has lots of other great resources on it. So let's get started on thank you notes. Many people think the job search process ends after you finish that interview. In reality, that job search process doesn't end there because you want to send a thank you note, which is also often a very overlooked part of the interview process. Sending a thank you note doesn't guarantee you a job. It doesn't necessarily um, um, give you a leg up, although it can. If two applicants are equal, you, by sending a thank you note, make yourself stand out more. But I think if you don't send a thank you note, it might affect your chances for this position, but also in the future. What is the purpose? The focus of a thank you note would be to show gratitude for the opportunity to, tour, interview, talk with employers, have lunch with them, learn about the organizations, share your skills. It also is a chance for you to once again highlight your professionalism and showcase your communication skills. It leaves a really positive impression for the employers if you follow up with a thank you note. And whether you get this position or not, the likelihood that you might apply for another position with this organization or interact with individuals in this organization might be high. So it's a great way to keep that open communication. The format, this is the most often asked question: what format should I use? And the reality is you can write a handwritten note, you can type a letter and send it, or you can create an email and send it. All of those are acceptable. The most important thing is that you send something. There are some factors that might make a decision on which format you use. For example, if you interviewed for a position and they let you know that you were the last person they were interviewing, the search committee was meeting the next day, you might select an email because you want that thank you to get them before they get to the search committee. Pay attention to the culture of the employer. Some places are really virtually paperless, in which case I think an email is a better idea. Consider your handwriting. If it's not great, then I would use one of the other two formats. It's sometimes the availability of an employer address makes a difference. Maybe it was a virtual interview. Maybe you interviewed with someone who's working from home, or there's a corporate office and a branch office and you're not quite sure where that thank you note should be addressed. Then you might go back to using an email again. So most important thing is to do one of those. Regardless of the type, you want to make sure you're using the right formatting. So I'm going to go through each one of these briefly. The first one, the one on the top, would be an email. The one on the bottom left is a typewritten thank you note, and the one on the right would be a handwritten. So let's take a look. This is what it might look like if you're sending an email. The most important thing if you're sending an email is to remember this is still formal communication. So you want to address it to Dear Mr. Ms. or first name, last name. You want to end with sincerely in your name, just a couple sentences. So that's what the email might look like. If you're writing up a letter, it will look very similar to a cover letter format. So single space, double space between paragraphs. This one has your address up at the top, but you could also replace that with the letterhead that you're using at the top of your resume. So instead of having your address flush left, you'd have that name letterhead that you created for your resume. Then the date, their contact information, 2 to 3 paragraphs, really 4 or 5 sentences is plenty. If you choose to handwrite a thank you note, which does, I think, often show a little extra effort, it's probably the one that is hardest in a way for people to accomplish. I would choose sort of a generic look in the thank you notes. And then we have some prompts here for you to think about. And these prompts would be consistent for whichever format you choose to use. Again, Dear Mr. Ms., first name, last name, a couple sentences, sincerely in your name. When should thank you notes actually be used? many times. I highlight a few here. For sure, anytime you have an in-person interview or a virtual interview, I would use it for both of those. I'd also use it if you went out and did an informational interview or a job shadow. You're thanking the person for their time and the information that they shared with you. If you have a graduate school interview, I would also send a thank you afterwards, or a graduate school visit. If you're having individuals write reference letters for you or they served as a reference, it's great for you to send them a thank you for doing that for you and keeping them updated on the process. For thank you notes that are used for interviews, whether that's for a job or an internship, I'd encourage you to try to send that within 24 hours of the interview. A little bit more on what you might include. So often one of the first lines is expressing appreciation for the opportunity for the interview. Part of the thank you might be reinforcing your enthusiasm for the position and the organization. You're recapping any main points that you want to remind them or leave them with about your strengths. If you forgot something in the interview, let's say perhaps you got home and you recall that you didn't share anything about your study abroad trip, and that's pertinent and relevant for the position you're applying for, you could add a line in your thank you note. One other thing that I remember that I did not share with you during the interview was my great study abroad trip, summer of 2019, where I went here and learned this. So you can include anything that you might have forgotten during the interview in the thank you. Finally, you could describe any additional actions you've completed or will be completing, either because they directed you to, so maybe you had to fill out a background check form. You can indicate that that's completed. Maybe since you've even interviewed, you received licensure, or you're in the process of completing a standardized test for your field. You can include some updates on that as well. A few other, a few other things I want you to keep in mind is to use formal business language. So not getting too casual, avoiding slang or abbreviation. You want to address it to a specific person. Make sure that you proofread it. And I would say not only you proofread it, but it's great to have another person review before you send it off. Just like anything, we know what we want to say, but might be missed as you're proofreading it unless you're a clean reader looking at it. Final thought, and I sort of mentioned this at the beginning. So consider this: if your application and interview are equal to that of another candidate, the person sending the thank you letter gets the recruiter's attention one more time. So I think it's great in terms of increasing your chances. It is also great just because it is professional, it shows gratitude, and it keeps a positive communication with that individual and that organization. Finally, just a reminder that we're here to help. So if you start working on this and you have questions, you want someone to proof it, or you have other questions about your job search process, feel free to contact our office. All of our contact information is listed here. The final thing is, if you send it to resumes, it usually takes just a day or two for that to get reviewed, and then we will get back to you as soon as we can. Always careers if you want to set up an appointment, or reach out to me directly if you have those questions. manders1@css.edu. Happy writing. We look forward to hearing from you in your search process.